You know, it's very interesting the way people look at other people. And for some that are sort of on the other side of the track that think out of the ordinary, they would laugh at somebody that stands up for their principle. Then there are other people that would look at that person and say, oh wow, I wish I could be as strong as that person. And so it's a matter of the eyes and the thinking of that person that's looking on. A lot of people, when they stand up, other people look at it and they say, I want to be like that person. I wish I could be like that person. But then there's people, as I mentioned, that don't have that understanding, and they would just think it's a joke. Oh, that person's an idiot. Yeah, and look at them, look at the way they stand. No, we do not attack Catholics.
We don't attack.
No, they're Christian like we are. They believe in the same God, the same Jesus.
Right.
It's just their worship method is different.
Yes.
You like coffee, I like tea.
Yeah. So I was just expressing my opinion, how I was raised up in the family. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I wasn't Catholic.
Well, you turned out okay. Praise the Lord.
Right. Yeah. So another question would be, can you describe your faith in your lowest moment, in your highest moment? Like
I ran outside through the kitchen door and up to the back and hid behind the garage, between the fence and the garage. Why? Because my mother and my father were arguing. Christians argue,
right.
Would you believe? And they were fighting like cats and dogs. And what came to the worst part was they pulled me into it and they said, who do you love more, me or your mother? I mean, how do you answer that? So I said, okay, I'm getting out of here. So that was it. That was the worst time of my life, that I had to make a decision which parent I loved, right? Because I love my mother more, but I love my father because he was my father, you know? So we come to decisions in life where we know that there's things that we love and you can't split them. You can't even split a hair. It's not possible. And so what do? Is just cover your eyes and run, you know? So that would be the worst one I remember. Yeah.
How about your highest moment?
Oh, the highest moment, I guess, was when I saw my daughter being born, because in hospital in Australia you're allowed to watch the children being born at the time. And here was my wife, and the baby was coming out. And I was thinking, this is truly amazing, God's creation. Oh, my daughter now is nearly 50.
All right.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit more about like how you teach your daughter about faith and about Jesus?
Okay. Now, right from the early age, my daughter was taught about Bible. We had a lot of Bible story books every Sunday, because at that time I was worship leader and teaching in Sunday school. She would be in Sunday school, so she was brought up in a Christian way. We had many Christian friends with Christian families that all had children, and so one week we would have meetings in this friend's place, and another week we'd have meetings in another friend's place. So in union with many friends, we would grow together as Christians. And so my daughter was in this environment where other Christian children were all together, and so when it came to learning the Bible, they understood the concept of building on the rock and building on the sand, you know. Build on the rock, the rock will ever stand, you know. And so the concept of the Bible was very clear to her. And so up until now, she's a very strong Christian.
I see.
Yeah. But from the beginnings, Bible stories, Sunday school, she grew up, brought up through fellowship. Even in university, she attended a local church, even though she was away in another city. So everything that I had taught her was instilled in her, but because I did it in a way of loving her, it kept within her. Whereas with me, my father was a brethren and he was a tyrant, and so with me it was okay, I've had enough of this, I'm going to go my other way. But with my daughter, she was brought up in a loving environment, but not with me, father, as a tyrant, but as a person that loved her, and if she did naughty, you know, she'd get a smack.
Right.
And if she was good, she would get a reward or a kiss or something like that. And so she was brought up in a loving environment to make her sort of go the right way, a strong way.
Things that you learned from your father and also through your friends, do you believe those things help you build your family in certain way? Like in faith, I'm talking about in faith.
The father is always the head of the family.
Right.
And if the grandfather is still alive, then he's the head of the family. In a Western culture, you know, when you get to teenage, a lot of people just move out, or they no longer acknowledge the father as being the head of the family because they're earning their own money. So it's important to understand that the culture that we're in. Remember that there is a hierarchy, and that in your culture, you need to understand that the cultural hierarchy, as well as your spiritual hierarchy, in your witness as a Christian. Yeah. So our spiritual hierarchy is respect for elders. Jesus said to give dues to the government what is due to the government, but to give dues to God what is due to God. You know, when he used the coin and there's Caesar on one side and then there was nothing on the other side.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also a bit interested in your teenage life because you shared you shared that you kind of how to say fell away from the faith.
Yeah.
And you were in the world, and then you got back into it because of your friends, right? So how was it like? Like for me too, you know, when at the moment I accepted Christ, and after that I had to lose my friends, and also lose the things that I believed too. It was hard for me at first.
Yeah.
So did you face any stuff like that?
I think through university, the fortunate thing was that I always had still maintained connections with a lot of Christian friends, but I didn't associate with them until toward the end of my university years. And so I never actually lost touch with them. Even if you have these other temptations, that you don't lose touch with people that are a part of your past. You don't burn your bridges.
Right.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and because I maintain a certain amount of friendships with them, in the end they drew me back. But that was me as a Christian. In particular reference to me as being born in a Christian family, it's important to maintain a tie that you don't lose everything, even if you decide to go the opposite way, that you don't lose the connection of these friends that you had before you went in the opposite direction.
When my friends call me to meet up, I know that we're gonna meet in some beer shop or in some place. Yeah. So actually, in my country, we don't usually meet up in a coffee shop. You know, we kind of meet up in a beer shop or maybe small tea shops. You know, and I think I would end up drinking beer, and I would end up doing some silly stuffs which I don't want to anymore. So I try to avoid that, and I told them openly that if you want to meet with me, you can just meet in a coffee shop and some restaurants. I'm not going to come to the beer shop. And then later on, they didn't call me anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you face any stuff like that?
I didn't have that problem because when they went to drink beer, I knew they were going to drink beer, but I would just order a soft drink.
Okay.
Coca-Cola is good for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But that was just me, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew
I
that,
like in self-control.
yeah, they would understand that. Hudson's coming along. You better get him a lemonade or something, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's just that was me
Yeah.
because I was ashamed of being a Christian,
Yeah.
but I still had limits to what I could drink because I knew that was really against what I was taught to become drunk,
Right.
right? And I didn't enjoy drinking beer anyway. But it's just trying to set the bar so that in future people remember that bar,
Right.
right? And you can only do that when you keep in company with them. Now, they may be non-Christian,
Yeah.
and to have non-Christian friends is fine as long as you know where to set the bar so that you know where to stop.
Yeah.
and they know that you have a limit to stop. And at times they will try you just to see, let's see if we can get Melvin to cross that line a little bit. So, hey Melvin, how about we get you order a beer? And then you say no. And then okay, this time he set the bar again. Okay. But that's how you keeping on, is that you have to maintain these friendships, but you have to set the bar so that those friendships don't make you cross the bar.
Right. Yeah, we can just like cut it off, right?
Yeah, when I say the bar, cross the line.
Yeah.
Okay, not the drinking bar.
Right. Yeah. So when I look back to my teenage years too, I would come back late at home at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Sometimes my mom would be
yes.
Yeah.
Waiting up. Yeah.
Yeah, waiting for me and praying for me.
Yes.
At first, I didn't think that I was wrong or anything. I was like, "Why are you waiting for me? You can just go and sleep."